So something like this is our end goal, and this is what we will make in this first video. Okay, so we start out by selecting the cube, and then we press X to delete it, and then we press Shift A, and we choose an UV sphere like this. Great. Then I want to not be this round, so let's press Tab to enter edit mode. We can select this point in the bottom, and we want to do some proportioning editing. So we press this button or press O. And now if we press J to move this point around, and we only want to move it in this axis, so we press Z. And if we use the scroll wheel on our mouse, we can decide how much this proportioning editing will affect this point or the points around it. So I think this looks good like that, and we do the same at the top, and we press G and Z, and I will make this a little bit smaller. I want this to be like the place where the head will rest, so maybe something like this. Great. We leave the editing mode by pressing Tab, and we right click and choose Shade to Outdoors mode. And then we go to this, the modifiers, and we add and we search for the subdivision surface modifier, and it will turn this object a lot smoother. So we can raise this one to 2 as well. Okay, great. So my plan is to do all the objects first, and then we add materials and textures and stuff like that. So now we need a head, so we can press this X and look upon this shape from the front, and we press Shift A, and we go to the mesh, and we choose another UV sphere. Great. And press G and Z and drag it upwards, and I think this head might be too big, so we press S to scale it down, and we just try to make it rest here. And we can change the render mode by choosing one of these button up here, and I actually want just to activate X-ray, and you can see the shortcut there as well, so it's Alt Z. You can press up here, or you can just use the shortcut. Yeah, I want the head to be a little bit smaller like that, and we can put it down here. Great. And I also want to add some kind of mouth to this, so instead of editing the vertices, we can press the 3 and or press this button, and now we can leave the X-ray moved, so Alt Z, and I can just drag and select the faces that I want to be the mouth, so we can shift left click to unselect that one. So these are the faces that I want to be the mouth, so we can start up by making an inset of these. So we press I and drag it down a little bit like this, and now we can press E to extrude, and I want it to extrude in the X axis, so we can drag it inwards, and we can press S, just whoops, and you can see it is still proportional editing, so we press Ctrl Z, we press O, the short command to end the proportional editing, and we press S now, and we only scale down this part. Great. And I exit edit mode, and we can right click and choose shade out mode, and we can add a subdivision surface modifier here as well. We can drag it up to 2, and as you can see, this line is too sharp for my taste, so enter edit mode again. And we can press 2, press this button, so select only lines, and we can hold down Alt and then left click, and we only select these lines, and we can press Ctrl B to bevel. I want to bevel that, and if we now scroll our mouse wheel, we can decide how many steps we want to bevel this in, and I think, yeah, maybe like this. And if we now exit edit mode, it should be a lot smoother. But I still think this mouth is a little too perfect. So let's press 1 and enter edit mode. And I want to use the proportional editing again. And let's just select a point here. And you can see it affects too much. But maybe like that. And maybe come out. And just move and set up the mouth shape to your liking. Maybe something like that. Oh yeah, I like that. And I also want to have a little nose, but the easiest way to do this is just press Shift S, and this is the cursor, the 3D cursor, and I want this to move this to the selector one. So we just choose this one. Now we have the 3D cursor here. And why I wanted to do that is because this is the point where new objects will appear. So if I now press Shift A and another UV sphere, you can see its origin point is at the 3D cursor. So just scale this down and we can look upon it from the side, X-ray mode. We can drag it over here and we can just scale it down. Maybe scale it in X like that and drag it out over here. That's a big nose, and we can exit X-ray mode by pressing Alt Z. And let's just out the smooth, and let's add a subdivision surface modifier again. Okay, so now I want to add the Santa hat, and let's just go to Shift A, Mesh, and we can choose Circle. And this circle is too wide, so we can scale it down. And now I remember that it's also kind of important to name your object. So if you select this body, you can see here it's just called sphere. We don't want that, we want to call it body. Great. And then we can select this part and call it head. We select the nose and then the head and press Ctrl G. And now these are one part. And for this circle, it will become the hat. Great. And now we want to edit the hat. So let's just press Tab to enter edit mode. And let's just press E to extrude and then S to scale out the extrusion. So I want a little bit of rim here on the Santa hat, and then extrude upwards. And then E, S to get another rim. And before I move on, I can add a loop cut in the middle here. So let's press Ctrl R to add a loop cut like this. And now we can scale them instead. And as you can see, the proportional editing is still on. So let's press O to turn it off. It didn't work because I was in another command. So let's press S and scale upwards. And then scale. Just move it out so we get a little more rounder shape. And now it's time to create the Santa hat. And let's look upon it from the side. So let's extrude upwards. We can actually scale like that and drag it up. I can add a couple of loop cuts. So let's Ctrl R and then redo the loop tool. We only need 3 loop tools, I think. And I think we scale this down from the beginning more like that by yourself to get the shape you want. And now I want to start proportion editing tool again, and let's select the top. If you don't use the Alt left click, you only select what you see. This might be a problem, and so I recommend to use the toggle X-ray, because now you select everything you select from when you see it from the side. So I drag this over here like that, something, and let's just scale, rotate it, and maybe over here. Okay, nice. And we can exit X-ray mode and just as before, add a smooth modifier, and then subdivision modifier. And as you can see, it's a bit too smooth here, so we need to add something. And if we press Alt and left click, so we select this rim behind here, and then we can press Shift E to make a sharp line. You can see if you drag, you make it less and more sharp, but we want full sharpness, so a 1. Great, looks something like that. And in the end here, I want some kind of ball, so let's just press Shift A UV sphere, and we scale it down a little bit and put it over here. It should be centered, yeah. And we can just join them. So select the hat and the ball and press Ctrl G, and it's joined. Great. But I want it to be rotated, so let's just select the hat and then R and rotate it down like that, and maybe drag it down a little bit, something like that. And I think also I want to make it a little bit wider, so I want to E and S, and then must be careful with the portion editing, and E and S. Doesn't matter if you drag it into the head for now. Okay, great. And for the last step, I want to add a button. And the best way to do this is maybe we can press Shift S and go take the cursor again to the selected, and then we press A, and we can take a cylinder. Let's rotate it around Y, 90 degrees, like that. And right now it's a bit big, so press S, scale it down, and drag it out, and scale it. Maybe we'll work more with this, but this is too big still. That will look good. And right now I realized that I have not worked correctly with the scales. So if we select this part, press N, and we choose item, you can see, okay, this is the scale. If we select the head, this is not the correct scale. So if we press Ctrl A, and yes, this is a lot of short commands, but if you learn them, it will be great. Then you apply rotation scale. So now this is 1:1 scale, and we want that. And the hat, same for that, Ctrl A, rotation scale. Great. This will make things easier later on. We can drag it down a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so for the button. And now if we go to numpad and just press the slash, then you hide everything else except the thing you have selected. So first off, I want to select these two faces and delete them. And I actually want to add a loop cut in the middle, like that. And then I want to select all of them, but now I did it wrong. So let's just press Alt, left click, press X, and delete these vertices. And now, did I apply the scale? No. So let's press Ctrl A, rotation and scale. Great. So now if we add a modifier and add a mirror modifier. So now this half will be the thing we build, and this will just be the mirror of this part. So if we start to add some parts here, try to build a button, ES, like that, and then E, X, drag it inwards a little bit, and then ES, and dash. Great, and we can right click, shade out the smooth, and then add a subdivision surface modifier. And I think it's too smooth here, so let's add some bevels. So let's press this one and press Ctrl B. Whoops. And we only need 2, I think, like that. Next, like this one, Ctrl B, Great. And we can actually press this button here to see where the lines go. And Control B. And you can see we are really tight here, but it's okay. I actually only need one. Great. So I think it's a bit too wide, maybe. But no worries, we can just let's activate X-ray mode, and we can just let's turn on clipping. We can just GX move it a little bit closer, take this and GX. Okay, so now we have thinner button, and now we want to make the holes for the button. And for this I actually want to move up the 3D cursor, so let's just press Shift S, cursor to selected, and then Shift A. Let's create a cylinder. It's much bigger, so let's just press R around Y, 90 degrees, scale it down, drag it up here, and just Control A, apply rotation and scale. And I want to cut with something, make a Boolean operation, and I want to cut with this object. So we select the part that we want to cut from, add modifier, search for Boolean, and the object we want to use is this one. Great. And for this object, I want to make a mirror. So I want it to be, and as you can see, nothing's happening. And the reason for that is trying to mirror itself or this position. That's not great. So we need this point to move over here. So when this is selected and we are in object mode, we go to object, and then we can just choose set origin to 3D cursor. And now if we start to and why it looked strange is because this is a Boolean object now. So we can name this this is a button, and this is the Boolean. Great. So we don't want to see the Boolean. We hide it like that. You can see it's really hard cut lines, so we can just take this one, shade auto smooth, and now it should be smoother cut as well. Okay, great. And the last thing we need to do for the button is to add some string. Okay, and the way I want to do this is to just press Shift A and go to curve, add a Bézier curve, and let's look upon it from the top. It's bigger, so let's just, we can scale it down a lot, and let's rotate it around Z, 90 degrees, minus 90 degrees. That's better, and we can take, oops, we can take this one. So we see this is the hole. We can drag this up, and we select this, and we can just select this, and we can just scale it in Y and to 0, so we get the perfect line. And we do the same here. We can just, this is seem to be level, so we can just rotate it 90 degrees like that. And now we just need to scale this down again. I can just also make this easier. So I want to have them at the same length, approximately. So maybe like that. Yeah, they both go to this one now. Yeah, and let's just make the thread a little bit longer, like that. And if we look upon it from the front, we need to rotate this 45 degrees or minus 45 degrees. And then we can go down to this and open up the geometry tab and go, and let's add some depth like that. If we now move it up, you can see we need to rotate it a little bit more. Okay, so from the front, we really need to move it in X. And I don't think it looks correct. I think it looked too beveled, so we need to fix this. And if we look upon it from the side, we can see that these two go too high. So we can either lower these like this, or we can just select these two, and then right click, subdivide, and we get one in the middle. I think this might be easier, and we can just take it down. If you look upon it like this, we can see, yeah, and this one we can actually scale until it looks like we want it to. But yeah, we can maybe take it in a little bit more, like that. Great. So now we just need to copy this one over here. So let's just press Shift D, right click. So now we have a double here, and let's use rotate it around X. So something like that. And right now this is not correct, so we need to select this one, and just press G to move it in X. And we need to see what we're doing, and G and X. And I want to scale it down a little bit like that, because I want the thread to have some tension. So like this, great. And if I now move this button, you can see both the holes stay where they are and the thread. We don't want this. So we need to show the Boolean again. And we want this hole to move with this one, but we also want the thread. So we select the holes, the thread, and last we select the button. And then we press Ctrl P to set the parent to the button, the last object we selected, like that. Now we can press down this, and we can hide the Boolean again, like that. And now if we move the button, everything will move. Great. And now we can go to numpad and press slash again, and we have a nice button. Great. And we take this button, drag it over here, put G, and then we rotate it like that. And then we press Shift D to duplicate it. And as you can see, we only got the button. We don't want that. We want the whole button. So, and now instead of just selecting everything and duplicate it, this will work. We can instead select everything and press M and make a new collection and call this button. Great. And we now press Shift A, and instead from mesh, we go down to collection instead of button. You can see we have the button, but its origin point is really off. Oops. So we need to fix this. And the way I want to do that is that I select this instance and open up instancing. And let's say set the 3D cursor to this. So let's press Shift S and take cursor to selected. Great. Just select the button and just press cursor to selected. And now we can press this button, and we can go here and set offset from cursor like that. And if we now take this, press Shift A in collection instances, the point of origin is correct. So we can just put it down here, rotate it, something like that. Great. And if you now look upon it in a viewport shading, it started to look pretty good. And for next step, we need to add some materials and lighting for the scene, but that's in the next clip. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see the next clip, please like and subscribe. Bye.